there's yet another new proposal out there to tax your wealth and to tax your unrealized capital gains. I'm going to share that proposal with you and explain why it's oh so silly right now. We've been telling you for years now that wealth taxes, unrealized capital gains taxes, retroactive taxes, those are going to be the menu for bankrupt countries, particularly bankrupt Western countries who can't seem to manage their own money and want to play in the increasing cultural divide where you've made money, whether it's because you started an online business or your online business thrived during the pandemic, you become a successful trader. However it is you made money, probably it's because that you're an evil tax cheat who hasn't paid your fair share and you're screwing over the rest of your fellow citizens. That's the narrative that's out there right now in the West. Now, we take a different approach here, but there's an article that came out in Forbes of all places that says, no, we don't just need a wealth tax and unrealized capital gains tax. We need to go after taxing what wealthy people borrow to level the playing field. If it's your first time here, my name is Andrew Henderson. I'm the founder of Nomad Capitalist. We're a boutique consultancy that helps 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs, i.e. the aforementioned evil rich, who want to legally reduce their taxes overseas, protect their assets, increase their options with things like second passports and diversified portfolios. We're also the host of the biggest and best offshore conference hosted every year called Nomad Capitalist Live. And the article I came across on Forbes is called Don't Tax the Wealth of the Rich, Tax What They Borrow. It's written by a guy named Eric Sherman. And quite frankly, if you were to read this article, it's kind of a complex web of, I actually had to, in rare form, go through and record this a couple different times because the article is kind of a hot mess. But he talks about how the group ProPublica recently reported on a trove of IRS data that showed the incomes and tax rates of the 400 wealthiest Americans and the highest incomes from 2013 to 2018. Basically, there was a data leak that's put out people's income tax payments, tax rates, all that kind of stuff, which, by the way, are the people at ProPublica. Do they want to tell us how much they made? Do they want to tell us how much they paid in taxes? Do they want to tell us their address or their personal details? My guess is they probably don't, but you're part of the evil rich. These people are part of the evil rich, these 400 wealthiest Americans, so they have to pay the price. That's just what happens. They owe the rest of society to know all their personal business, whereas they don't get to know anyone else's personal business. And the article kind of prattles on, and it was really kind of hard to share with you. But I'm going to get down to the bottom line of Eric and his proposal. There's another approach that might work far better. He's saying basically far better than Joe Biden's proposal to tax wealth and they have an unrealized capital gains tax and basically figure out, how much money have you made but you haven't sold the stuff. He says, forget that. Tax what the wealthy borrow. As ProPublica notes, many of the massively wealthy get loans using their wealth as collateral. The average person might wonder why they would borrow with enough money to buy virtually anything they like. And that's because the rich have a different approach. Maybe that's because they're rich. Maybe people should be learning from being rich. Maybe the people should learn what it's like to create jobs and run a business and create things of value. But no, again, that was the case many years ago in the West, and that's perhaps what made the West great. We talk about why the West has been in decline, particularly countries like the United States, where they seem to have forgotten what made them successful all those years ago, and it's exactly this. Don't learn from the rich. Don't focus on how to create more value. Focus on hating the rich and then trying to find ways to screw them. They look for limited income, he continues, that is taxable at high rates. This article really, honestly, I wouldn't bother. I mean, I almost never make commentary in these articles. I would not bother reading this article. I'm trying my best to go through this wholly unreadable article. Instead, they minimize the cash that will be taxed at regular rates because they pay the top rate of 37% on anything they couldn't wipe. Okay, I give up. I'm just going to tell you what the guy, I read the article. I'm going to tell you what the guy wants because I can't take it. I don't know who this Eric Sherman is, but quite frankly, it's unpalatable. The bottom line is, wealthy people are borrowing money against their investments. Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter. He gets some money from investment banks. He puts in some of his own. He borrows money against Tesla. And basically, the proposal here is, let's apply the tax rates on the borrowing. And I'm just looking through. It's like 5 paragraphs. He says, hey, I got the solution. And then you go 5 paragraphs, and then he starts to finally explain the solution. Tax the borrowing. The tax system could even give them a credit on the interest they pay, like so many things. And they could still get a huge amount of taxes that are otherwise avoided. So the bottom line of this article, and I apologize to what utter dreck this article is. The idea is if you borrow money, we're just going to tax you. It's the unrealized capital gain. You might pay the money back, but we're just going to tax you as if you took the money out. So you're kind of wholesale change of the tax system whereby, the everyday person who has a loan, they're not going to pay tax on that loan. They get to continue to have their mortgage, they have their consumer credit, they have all that. They're fine. But if you're wealthy, and I don't entirely know, buried in this unreadable pablum, if it explains, but the idea is at some point, if you're wealthy, you can't borrow. Where's the tax going to borrow against it? So why does that matter? Well, for everyone in the crypto community, all the Bitcoiners who are like, you don't need to go overseas. Just borrow against it. I don't know what this Nomad Capitalist is talking about, but he's an idiot because, we have the much more sophisticated way to handle things. We just borrow. And my response was always, yeah, for now. Yeah, for now. Because when you have a culture that's in decline, as I've been looking at again, I always tell you the Economic Freedom Index for the last 25 years, since I was 12 or 13 years old. The US goes down every year. The West goes down every year. They're raising taxes. The attitude is going in the wrong direction. And that's eventually going to catch up with you, where the idea of, hey, I'll just borrow, that's not going to work anymore. Now, Eric Sherman's not in charge of policy, thank goodness. I mean, I can't imagine what silliness would entail if this guy was in charge of writing anything of importance. But this is something that is echoed by many politicians on the left, not only in the United States, but in other countries, where let's take away what they call loopholes. Basically, anything they don't like is a loophole. Let's take away your ability to use your money to borrow against it, to go out and do other stuff. Forget the fact that you've probably paid a whole bunch of taxes, more than pretty much anyone else, and probably more than Eric Sherman, quite frankly, on the way up. Consider the fact that you probably paid a lot more in payroll taxes. Your workers have paid income taxes. They didn't come to work for your company because it was a bad deal. They came because they were making more than the last company. So there's a lot of economic activity being generated on the way up. And now you finally made it, and now you can borrow against some of your assets. And they want to stop you from doing that, even considering the fact that that's going to create more economic value in their country. The fact that Elon Musk can go out and buy Twitter. Why? Because he thinks he can unlock the value of Twitter and make it worth more. And that theoretically translates into more opportunities working in Twitter, more opportunities for shareholders, all these different things that kind of continue on. But because it makes them angry that you have assets and they don't, they're going to make it difficult for you to borrow. This is not a proposal from a politician. Some of the things we've shared with you, citizenship-based taxation in countries like Canada, new wealth taxes, new unrealized capital gains taxes. These are real proposals from politicians in the US, in Canada, in Australia, in South Africa, in Germany, elsewhere. No doubt there are proposals from real politicians in those places. This is something that I think politicians will be paying more attention to because it's already on the menu, unrealized capital gains taxes. Wealth taxes failed in close to a dozen countries in Europe. Now, politicians like Elizabeth Warren want to bring it back. Why? Oh, because our citizens can't escape it. And because Elizabeth Warren doesn't learn from failure. And so this is something that I've been telling you, whatever loophole, as they would call it, you think you have in terms of building wealth and keeping it in a country like the United States or any Western country, Canada, Australia, what have you. My answer is always for now. What I would want you to have is the certainty of living in a place where you know the politicians aren't going to eventually get around to the particular way that you minimize your tax. If you live in a place where the tax rate is zero, sure, that could change. But guess what? Right now, the tax rate is zero, right? And the tax rate where you're living in some overtaxed Western country might be 30, 40, 50%. I'll take the zero now and take my chances as the country that in 2022 is still applying zero tax rate, or they're giving me, the foreigner, zero tax rate for 15 years. Or they're giving me, the foreigner, exemption on all my foreign income in perpetuity. I'll take the deal that country's attitude is a lot better than the attitude of a country that's still saying, in a world that's never been more competitive economically, where there's never been more places to go, the country where it's like, oh yeah, where else are you going to go? You think you can beat this 47% tax rate somewhere else? You think you're going to leave? I'll go with the place that's charging you zero now. I would want to be in that place where it's zero, or listen, if you want to pay 5% and open up some more options, I'm okay with that. But somewhere where there's some tax friendliness so that they're probably not thinking as much, what's next on our agenda to tap in and take these suckers' money. I want to be in the place where they have the right attitude rather than the one where I'm simply waiting around for them to come and take advantage of the way that I keep my taxes low. Unrealized capital gains tax, just another version of that.